Consciousness is the baseline that everything else is built upon. And it's not that hard to think about if you actually just start thinking that every single thing in your room, in my room, on your body, in your home, started as a thought first. It wasn't here. It was all thought first. Everything in our physical reality, Wi-Fi, any of it, was a thought first. The only thing that wasn't is the earth that we're standing on, unless that was someone else's thought.
Would you say you've made peace in some way with the mystery of consciousness, that there's some mystery here that perhaps we're not going to be able to nail down and define in every way that we want? Or are you on a search to get answers to how some of these things work, or both?
I think it's both. I mean, I do fully believe now that consciousness is fundamental. We've grown up in a paradigm, which is materialism, which says that what is real can be measured and observed. And I think we did a huge disservice to ourselves of human beings when we cut off from the belief that the non-physical world is active and real in our lives. And if you look back at a lot of native folks from all over the world, that was part and parcel of existence. And it was helpful. It was quite helpful. So I think understand and how does this stuff become possible, is if consciousness is fundamental. And if that sounds like, what does that mean? This idea, the materialist world, a lot of it's right. A lot of it is right. But basically it's that these building blocks of our world, which are physics and math and biology and psychology. And at the tippy top of that is consciousness. And all those other things created consciousness. And, our brain created it. And every little layer of the pyramid there for materialism, I think, is pretty correct. We don't want to toss out the textbooks. But if you take that tippy top of consciousness and put it on the bottom of the triangle, then consciousness becomes fundamental. Consciousness is the baseline that everything else is built upon. And it's not that hard to think about if you actually just start thinking that every single thing in your room, in my room, on your body, in your home, started as a thought first. It wasn't here. It was all thought first. Everything in our physical reality, Wi-Fi, any of it, was a thought first. The only thing that wasn't is the earth that we're standing on, unless that was someone else's thought. So if consciousness is fundamental, then it's not hard to believe that our bodies are dividing up our little singular unified things of consciousness into little beings that can operate and explore the world. But really, when all said and done, it's like we're drops in an ocean kind of, and this ocean is consciousness. And that would make something like telepathy or clairvoyance or remote viewing possible, because we can operate, or seeing through a blindfold possible. So I don't think that we have the whys yet, but I think we will. Just like we couldn't explain what a rainbow was for years. It was a promise from God, and then we could explain it. I think many of these things that feel mystical and magical, we find out how they operate and how they work. The other thing that's really interesting is the amount of, I think, high-profile individuals who are much smarter than I, who really on the cutting edge of technology and things like that, science, who have been telling me about some of the stuff they're pondering and questioning. And one of these individuals, I know he's funded consciousness labs all over the world, big in tech, big in funding consciousness research. And he's got a theory that we're trying to have him on the talk tracks, but he's pretty private. The talk tracks is our between seasons show where we kind of unpack things. That psi, which is quote, we talk about that in telepathy, PSI psi, which might be clairvoyance or telepathy or psychokinesis or remote viewing. Some of these abilities, he thinks they're kind of shy, and he doesn't know if they're built that way. But often, like when you see them out of the gate, it's really repetitive and powerful and promising, and sometimes they wane if you're asked to do them or capture them or test them. Through the telepathy film, we have successfully captured, it's going to be in the film, like telepathy happening in a very controlled setting, which is exciting, through triple blind trials with a whole team of scientists, all sorts of stuff like that, which is great. But when you try to capture and document this stuff too much, it can kind of get a little difficult to do. And this man believes that that's part of the nature of it, that it kind of keeps the mystery alive. Like we have to have a little bit about that in our world. So who knows? but we're gonna keep exploring it.
Discover on-demand videos and docuseries, explore a full schedule of daily life classes, and become part of an incredible community. At Sounds True One, we invite you inward to find your way your way.